Most people over 60 assume that losing strength is just part of getting older, that at some point the body starts to give, and that's just how it goes. That assumption is wrong, and it's exactly what makes this worse. Because while someone is busy blaming the calendar, what's actually happening inside the body keeps going, untreated, unaddressed, and quietly accelerating. What's actually happening is far more specific than aging. It has a name. It has a known mechanism. And, this is the part most people never hear, it has a proven response. The problem isn't age. The problem is what age does to a muscle that isn't getting the right stimulus. Those are two completely different things. And that difference matters more than most people realize. Here's the first thing most people get wrong. They think muscle loss is something that happens to people who were never active. That if you stayed moving, stayed busy, kept yourself in reasonable shape, you're protected. That's not how this works. The National Institute on Aging documents that sarcopenia, the clinical term for age-related loss of muscle mass and strength, affects between 10 and 30% of adults over 60 in the United States, regardless of fitness history. The process starts silently around age 30 and accelerates visibly after 50. People who stayed active lose muscle more slowly, but they still lose it. And when the right stimulus stops, the acceleration comes back. Here's the second thing people get wrong. They think the warning sign is visual, that when muscle loss reaches a dangerous level, you see it in the mirror, that you'd know. The data says otherwise. Strength declines significantly faster than size. A person can look reasonably fit and have lost a substantial portion of their functional capacity. The CDC reports that falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries in adults over 65 in the United States. More than 36 million falls every year. Most of those falls don't happen because someone looks weak. They happen because the muscles that should have reacted in a fraction of a second simply didn't respond fast enough. And there's something specific that makes this worse after 60. Something most people never connect. It's not just about how much muscle you have. It's about what's happening inside each individual muscle fiber. And once you understand that mechanism, everything starts to make sense in a way that no generic health tip ever explains. There are three things happening simultaneously inside an aging muscle, and all three need to be understood together. The first is the loss of fast twitch fibers. Muscle has two main fiber types. Slow twitch fibers handle endurance, walking, maintaining posture, sustained activity. Fast twitch fibers handle power and reaction speed, catching yourself when you trip, correcting your balance when a foot slips, lifting something heavy off the ground quickly. With aging, it's the fast twitch fibers that disappear first, and fastest. This is why the most dangerous consequence of sarcopenia isn't how someone looks, it's reaction time. When a 70-year-old trips, the system that should correct balance in a fraction of a second is working with a fraction of what it had before. Not because of bad luck. Because the right type of muscle fiber has been quietly disappearing for years. Doctors see this constantly. The fall wasn't an accident. It was the result of years of silent loss that never showed up in the mirror, but showed up the moment the body needed to move fast. The second thing is the deterioration of neuromuscular connections. Muscle doesn't act on its own. It acts when the brain sends the signal. And those connections, called neuromuscular junctions, also deteriorate with age. The result is that muscle becomes harder to activate, coordination drops, and the time between the intention to move and the actual movement increases. This is why older adults sometimes seem hesitant in movements that used to be automatic. It's not uncertainty. It's biology. The wiring is degrading, and most people have no idea this is even happening. The third, and this is the part that rarely gets explained clearly, is what happens inside the muscle cells themselves. Healthy muscle alternates between two states. In the first state, it builds. This is triggered by a signal called mTOR, activated by resistance exercise and by adequate protein. In the second state, it cleans. This process, called autophagy, removes damaged proteins and worn-out mitochondria and replaces them with functional ones. Mitochondria are the energy-producing structures inside each cell. When they're working well, the muscle has fuel. When they're worn out and not being removed, the muscle produces less energy per effort and fatigues faster. Here's the problem with aging. That cycle breaks down. The build signal gets stuck in a low-grade permanent on state, never fully shutting off, and that prevents the cleaning process from functioning properly. The result is a muscle that accumulates damaged components on the inside, ages faster than its size suggests, and loses efficiency long before it loses visible volume. This is why people can look reasonably fine and still fatigue in ways that don't make sense to anyone watching from the outside. The problem isn't on the surface, it's cellular. And there's one more layer that makes all of this harder after 60, and it directly affects what you eat. It's called anabolic resistance. As muscle ages, it becomes progressively less sensitive to the signals that normally trigger growth. The same amount of protein that would efficiently build muscle at 30 produces a significantly smaller response at 70. The muscle becomes partially deaf to growth signals. Harvard Health Publishing documents that the vast majority of American adults over 60 are consuming less protein than they need, at exactly the stage of life when they need more, not less. The amino acid that most directly activates muscle synthesis is leucine, found in high concentrations in eggs, fish, chicken, and dairy. For those eating plant-based, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, edamame, and quinoa are the densest available sources. But quantity without distribution doesn't solve it. Research suggests that spreading protein across every meal, rather than concentrating it at dinner, produces consistently superior muscle response. The muscle responds to the protein stimulus of each meal independently. Missing that stimulus at breakfast or lunch is a missed opportunity for synthesis that can't be made up later. None of that is easy to hear. And it's honest to say that some of it is unavoidable. The body ages, fast twitch fibers decline, anabolic resistance increases. But here's what American research shows consistently, and what most people never actually hear. This process is largely modifiable. No miracle here. But there are 4 things the evidence solidly supports. And none of them are what most people are currently trying. The first is progressive resistance training. The American College of Sports Medicine is direct about this. Resistance exercise, free weights, resistance bands, bodyweight movements, is the intervention with the strongest proven impact on preserving and recovering muscle mass in older adults. Not walking. Not stretching. Resistance. The mechanism is specific. Muscle effort against a load activates the mTOR signal with enough intensity to initiate real construction and to properly shut off afterward, finally allowing the cleaning process to do its job. But the intensity has to be sufficient. The last few reps of each set need to be genuinely hard. Easy stimulus doesn't produce adaptation. For adults over 60 with no training history, 2 sessions per week targeting the major muscle groups, legs, back, shoulders, produces measurable response within weeks, not months. Weeks. Muscle responds to stimulus at any age, including at 70 and 80. What changes with age is the speed of response, not the capacity to respond. The second is enough protein, distributed across every meal. The NIA and Harvard Health Publishing converge on the same point. Adults over 60 need at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, spread across meals, not concentrated at dinner. For a 165-pound person, that's roughly 90 grams per day. For most American adults over 60, that's more than they're currently eating. High-quality protein with adequate leucine, eggs, fish, chicken, dairy, or the plant-based sources mentioned earlier, at every main meal is the direct nutritional complement to resistance training. Without enough protein, the exercise stimulus has no raw material to work with. One thing that comes up constantly is that level of protein safe for the kidneys. The NIA is clear. In people with healthy kidneys, yes. The caution applies only to those with already diagnosed kidney disease, and in those cases, a doctor should guide the individual limits. The third is sleep, treated as part of the treatment, not a bonus. Deep sleep is when the majority of muscle repair actually happens. Autophagy, the cellular cleaning process, operates most efficiently during deep sleep stages. Cut sleep and you cut recovery. It's that direct. Research suggests that older adults with consistently poor sleep show accelerated markers of muscle deterioration, independent of exercise and diet. This isn't a secondary detail. It's part of the same system. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night isn't generic wellness advice. It's the condition under which training and nutrition actually produce results. The fourth is continuous movement throughout the day. Long periods of sitting accelerate inflammatory markers and degrade muscle quality, even in people who train regularly. The ACSM recommends breaking extended sedentary periods every 30 to 60 minutes with light movement. This isn't about burning calories. It's about keeping circulation active, reducing systemic inflammation, and maintaining the sensitivity of the neuromuscular signals that make training effective in the first place. Training twice a week doesn't cancel out sitting for 10 hours a day. Both matter. Now you know what's actually happening, not getting older. A specific process with a known mechanism and a proven response. Fast twitch fibers declining. Neuromuscular connections losing precision. A cellular cycle that breaks down without the right stimulus. And muscle that becomes less and less responsive unless that stimulus is applied consistently. 4 things with solid evidence behind them. Progressive resistance. Enough protein distributed across every meal, quality sleep, and less time sitting still throughout the day. No miracle. No shortcut. But the evidence is clear. and this is addressable at any age. What you do with that is up to you. If this video was useful, subscribe to the channel. Every week there's a new video on how to get stronger, stay independent, and age on your own terms. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. And if you have questions or want to share your experience, drop it in the comments.